Chef Austin Buhler doing double duty in the kitchen, and this time a savory, delicious soup. It's Swiss onion soup, one of our favorites. It is one of those comfort foods.
Oh yeah, this one is definitely a very warming, after a really long day outside, you can come inside and have this and it will warm you right up.
GTU has been a long show. I think I need a cup of soup.
Right, exactly.
Okay, what do you start with? I asked what kind of onions do you use?
So you want a sweet onion, and they'll be labeled as sweet onions. Those can be like Vidalias or like Walla Wallas or anything like that. If all you have around are like yellow onions or white onions, they'll work too, but the sweeter ones just lend better to the soup, and so it's not so astringent.
And how many onions?
You're gonna want about four to six, depending on the size. You've got like really big ones, smaller.
Okay. And then, so the debate is, do you eat all the onions in the soup? I don't always do that.
So I went as a kid. No, I just wanted the sauce, the juice, and the bread and the cheese. But if you do it correctly, those onions should be so tender and soft you don't really even notice that they're there. It's just the flavor.
And this one is different. It's not a beefy soup.
No.
In fact, it's creamy.
Yep. So the Swiss version doesn't use a beef base. It doesn't, and it's a creamed based soup. So you're making more like an onion cream deliciousness that's really forward in like the Swiss cheese flavors and that onion flavor.
I didn't know there were different types. Dina and I actually wanted a whole week of onion soup, and this is a different one.
This is a different one.
We could have done it.
Yep, we definitely could have. So what I did first is I cut the onions up in small slivers. I melted a stick of butter, and these onions in here have been going since we ended the last segment, so about an hour. You don't want to do it on the medium-low heat, and this one you don't want to brown. With the regular French onion soup, you want that brown for the color. We want to try to keep this as blonde and as white as possible, but still getting that nice
So this is one that you want to take your time with, put the onions in, and you did butter, not oil.
Yep, butter, not oil. And so we're about to see how like creamy and like delicious those are.
And you're using a porcelain pot. It's
an enamel cast iron.
Yes, cast iron. And then, do you put any seasonings?
Yes. So what we're going with next is actually, because we got the butter in here, and you need to thicken this up. So I'm just going with flour.
Okay.
The seasonings do come into play a little bit towards the end, because I don't like to season this one particularly until we get closer to the finish, because when you're adding that Swiss cheese, depending on the type that you get, Swiss cheese can be really salty. And so seasoning wise, I do towards the end of it, so that way I don't end up over salting it once I add the cheese to it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Do you use the flour? Can you also substitute with cornstarch, or just
You could. This one specifically, because now we're making a roux out of the oil and stuff like that. So I've never made it with cornstarch, but you definitely could if you if you couldn't have flour.
Okay.
And so I just cooked that for a few minutes there to kind of get rid of that floury flavor. And I'm going to add in 2 cups of chicken broth. Now, you can also substitute half of this, so it'll be 1 cup of chicken broth and 1 cup of white wine. Just to kind of depend. That's how I usually do it. It just depends on what flavor you want. Chicken broth is a really good.
Look at that already.
Yeah, so it's going to get really nice and thick.
Creamy.
Yeah.
And then how long are you cooking it after that?
So after that, we will actually add some milk and some cream. And then that will simmer for about 20 minutes just to get that nice thickened up flavor and get a really nice ready to roll there.
Okay, milk, whole milk?
So 2 cups of whole milk and then 2 cups of cream, I think is what my recipe says. Whatever the recipe says, that's what it is, right?
But sometimes you don't have the exact, and you have different types of milk, 2%, but then add more cream.
Yeah, if you have half and half on hand, you can definitely just use that.
Okay.
I don't keep half and half on hand because I always have milk and I always have cream. So I don't need the third because it's just the same thing, right?
Whatever's the usual in your kitchen.
Yeah, totally fine. Once this sits and boils and thickens up really nice and creamy, then you're going to want to add your shredded Swiss cheese. Always shred it yourself. I'm a big don't like pre-shredded cheeses because they have the cellulose on the outside, which is, I call it sawdust.
Preservative.
But the anti-caking will thicken up in here and make it grainy.
Oh, we don't want that.
Yeah, and you want to make sure your soup's thick before you add your cheese, so the cheese has something to melt and bind to.
Okay.
And then that makes it really nice
creamy.
and delicious. And then once it's all done, you end up with this really...
Yes, I see why I would not leave the onions out.
Yep.
Like, I would eat all of it.
Yep, all that's in there. I did forget the seasonings. You mentioned that. Let's jump back here.
Okay,
I'm throwing in some thyme, some salt. That was a little chicken base in there, just to add a little bit extra flavor.
The flavors.
And then let that simmer.
Okay.
Now we're gonna jump back forward, and you got that really nice, thick, creamy, delicious soup there.
And then the best part is you're gonna bake it.
Yes, we'll throw that in a little crock or anything that's oven safe. And then top that with, you can, if you have like some old, day old crusty bread.
You can make your own croutons.
Whatever you want, just top that there.
And then more Swiss cheese.
And then top that with the Swiss cheese.
Yum. Okay.
And then throw that in the oven and let that brown.
Pre-made this, took it out of the oven about 10 minutes ago, and look how creamy it is. Oh my God, that is so
good,
yummy.
right?
Oh my gosh, I can eat this all day long, every day.
Just remember when you're taking these out of the oven, that the pot itself is going to be very hot, so be careful.
This is one of my favorites.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm grabbing this recipe, keeping it in my pocket.
Thank you, appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Chef Buhler. That recipe will be on our website sooner than later.
Yep.
All right, welcome back.
Thank you, appreciate it.